I, 18 male, lost my mom 7 months ago to cancer. She had been sick for 3 years, and in the last 2 months, we found out my dad had been having an affair almost the entire time she was sick. My mom was absolutely destroyed by the news when she learned it, and what's worse is my dad's affair partner wanted to try and straighten things out before my mom died. My dad was kicked out of the house, and Mom changed her funeral plans and everything so that Dad wouldn't be able to go. She changed her will and went out of her way to ensure I would get everything, not him. She set it up so my aunt would have temporary guardianship over it, or whatever it's called, and my dad couldn't get his hands on it that way either. She said unequivocally that she had not wanted my dad with someone else while she was alive and wouldn't act like things were okay after either. When my mom died, it was the most painful time in the world for me, and I'm still processing life without her. I also hate my dad for the harm he caused during Mom's final months. He made it all 10,000 times harder than it ever needed to be, all because he couldn't remain faithful to her in life. He got engaged to his affair partner the week my mom died. They decided to wait until Mom was gone for a year to try and save some of his reputation. But I have hardly anything to do with him, and anything I do with him is because he makes the effort and reaches out. He wanted me to know he was engaged, and he wanted me to meet his other woman, and he forced those things on me. The last time they decided we needed to speak, I told them not to invite me to the wedding because I wouldn't go or respect them enough to RSVP officially. They were upset and told me to think about the future and other BS like that. I told them that if they felt they were worthy of being grandparents, which they mentioned, then they needed to think again. Then they tried to guilt me with a sob story of how she was widowed for many years and her kids all turned their backs on her and took her grandkids away because they were disgusted with her for moving on. That didn't move me one little bit. But my dad's family is angry that I'm drawing such a hard line at the wedding. They already know people judge my dad and think it would look way better if I were there. My dad also thinks that I'm taking his relationship with my mom out on him instead of judging based on how he was as my dad. But I stand by a dad who makes their kids' loss of their other parent harder than it needs to be is not a good dad. And he made losing Mom so much harder. I've heard from so many family members that I need to go to the wedding, and I'm wrong to say no. I'm asking, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I'm hearing from so many family members. I bet they're all on his side of the family. I highly doubt it's your mom's side telling you this. They're biased, and their opinion is worthless. Your father did an atrocious thing. He engaged his affair partner the week she died? Holy crap, that's unforgivable. This other woman's children don't speak with her, and that sounds well-deserved on her part. You don't need to go to this wedding at all. I think it'd be one last nice screw you in honor of your mom. Can we add the ridiculous idea that the affair partner wanted to straighten things out with Mom? Who in their right mind thinks that they have a right to go to a dying woman to present their affair partner and straighten things out, like she would suddenly be all okay with it all and give them her blessing? Her kids don't speak to her because they're also horrified by her behavior. I doubt it's the moving on. They have an issue with more of how she's gone about it. Anger because she's moving on with a married man whose wife was actively dying from cancer is more like it. I'd be horrified if I were them too. Tell the family harassing you about it that the only way you'll go is if you get carte blanche for the first speech at the reception, and you doubt that they'd want to hear what you'd have to say about the happy couple. You're just doing what your dad did, practicing what it's like when someone isn't there anymore and just being a bit early with it. It sounds like a good plan. I'd follow suit. You are spot on. I would go. Give a speech on what you mentioned here about their pathetic and harmful love story. Leave afterward and block them all. They're being awful to you to try and save face. You deserve so much better, darling. And Dad's family's trying to cover up his heinous behavior. I guess the rotten apple didn't fall far from the rotten tree. I am so truly sorry that all of this happened to you. You deserve so much better. I hope you're allowed the space and respect to grieve and recover from losing both of your parents in this devastating way. I, female 18, am expecting a baby. I know I'm young. I live with my boyfriend, my baby's father, and we're determined to make a good life for us and our child. Becoming a mom is making me think about what I want for my child, and one thing I want more than anything is to keep my child away from the hate my half-brother has toward my parents and toward me as well. Background: my parents met after my dad lost his first wife. My half-brother was 6 or 7 when his mom died, and 10 when my parents met. They got married 2 years later, and I was born within a few months. So we have a 12-year age gap. My brother followed me 2 years after me, and my sister 18 months after my brother. My dad's son hated that dad remarried after his mom died. His maternal family was also angry at dad for betraying their daughter and not living forever as her widower and never finding love again. Growing up around that wasn't easy. I would hear dad's son get mad at dad for loving my mom more than his son's perception. He would yell all over the house that dad was unfaithful, would say my mom was nothing special, and would never truly be loved or be part of his family. He called her a side piece and another woman. Dad would argue back as well, which made things difficult. They were in therapy at times, but it never seemed to help. Even when he turned 18, he would come home and fight dad over who he loved more. He never cared for me or my siblings either. He wished dad had never had us. When my dad's son had kids, he told the whole family that my mom would never be a grandparent or family. He said the woman dad loved more than his mom and his kids' real grandma would never be loved more by his kids. He would make sure they never loved her. He talked about how he was going to pin a photo of her to a punching bag, and they would also use a photo of her as target practice because that's all she was good for. He was never cut from our lives. In fact, my dad would still let him into the home and invite him to every party or event. I will not allow any contact between the dad's son and my child, though. I don't want my child around that kind of fighting or to hear that kind of thing about grandma and grandpa. There's been talk of a co-ed baby shower, and I told my dad his son would not be invited. Dad was asking why, and I told him it should be obvious, but I don't want his son around my child when he treats us all so badly. I told him he would never be around my baby and would never be invited to things related to my child. He told me I was extreme and should give it time. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Dude, how much more time does he want? It's been 18 plus years. Is your dad that spineless to allow his son from his first wife to treat you like that? Dad is 95% of the problem here, not shutting this idiot down. Dad is delusional if he thinks this will change. Frankly, if I were you, I'd consider never being where he is again and going no contact with the half-brother. Seriously, your dad is in straight denial that his son's resentment will get better. Your dad's son is delusional and needs serious help. Whatever therapy he was doing obviously didn't cut it. I can't find a single reason for you to expose your child to that behavior. It won't stop with your mom or grandparents. Once your child is here, your brother will rage that your dad loves your child more than his. Protect your child. I have a son who graduated college last year. We're both car people, and as a graduating gift, I paid 60% of the cost of a brand new car he wanted. It's quite a nice car. After it was bought, I told him he shouldn't let his girlfriend ever drive it. He seemed annoyed and started questioning why, but we agreed to disagree and just left it at that. He didn't listen to me and let her drive it. Well, she crashed it a few days ago, scraped a barrier, and damaged the whole side of the car. She told him some story about how some semi tried to merge into her and then left the scene. I again told him it wasn't a good idea to let her drive it and told him to stop allowing her to do so. He got upset and called me an idiot and said he would still allow her. I paid 60% of the cost of the car. I don't allow non-car people to drive my nicer cars. My wife and daughter aren't allowed to touch my cars, and it's always been this way, since they're the type to not care about cars, besides going from point A to point B. And I've been a passenger in their cars and don't trust their driving. I rarely allow my wife to drive when we go places together. Am I the idiot for telling my son that he shouldn't allow his girlfriend to drive his car? You are the idiot. You are weirdly controlling and also come off as a misogynistic idiot. If your son got into a car accident, would you call his accounting some story? Maybe you're not misogynistic. Perhaps you're just super judgy of all the non-car people. But that alone still makes you an idiot. You're also an idiot because you're trying to attach strings to what was supposed to be a gift. He's already told you he won't implement the restrictions you want, yet you keep pushing. Your wife is a non-car person. Your daughter is a non-car person. The girlfriend is a non-car person. Papa OP is a car person. Your son is a car person. So by non-car people, you mean people born female, right? You are the idiot, a misogynistic one at that. Fun fact, according to statistics, women drive more safely than men. I hope they have their own cars to drive away and leave you alone with your Hot Wheels. I don't know. My dad lets his sister-in-law drive and not my mom, and I wouldn't let my mom drive my bike. Granted, the girlfriend might be a bad driver, given how quickly the crash happened. I'm the only gal here who's gonna say OP is not the idiot. It's just a good rule of thumb not to loan out expensive items to people when that expensive item could cost you more if anything should happen. My husband, 30, has severe abandonment trauma caused by Mommy Dearest. She dropped him off on his dad's doorstep when he was 5. He had only met his dad a handful of times and took off for a year. During that year, his dad dropped him off on DHHS's doorstep, and he ended up in foster care. When his mom finally did fight for him back 7 months later, she regained custody just to give guardianship to her oldest daughter, 24 at the time. She's nasty and manipulative, just like mother-in-law, and then was in and out of my husband's life until he was maybe 19, when her presence became more permanent. I met him when he was 22 and still living with his sister. I've always hated his mom for what she did to him, but it was set in stone after I lost our child. He and I had been together maybe 5 months. She came to our house unannounced to check on her son as I was bleeding out and said to him, "It's for the best, honey." She didn't say 2 words to me. She just told him it was best that our baby was gone. For the past 8 years, she's always shot him down. He wanted to move out of state, and she convinced him not to. Every time he wants to take a certain career path, she convinces him not to. Instead, she tries convincing him to work with her at a rehab facility, making pennies on the dollar. If he wants to sell one of his vehicles, she convinces him to just give it to her instead. And now that we have a daughter, stuff is just getting worse. For whatever reason, she decided to tell us at our baby shower that she was indifferent about me being pregnant. And then when I was giving birth, she literally showed up and waltzed right into the labor and delivery room and clung to my husband. She told all the nurses she came to support her baby, "I just came here to hold my baby up." Not once did she ask how I was or if I needed anything. I told her to get the heck out. Surprisingly, my husband screamed at her to get out after she didn't listen to me. It's a big brownie points moment for him. I was so proud. But anyway, since our daughter's now a few months old, he's been talking about starting his own business. His mom showed up yesterday, and he was talking to her about it. She told him he should leave the state and start working, secure a place down there, and send for us. Now, keep in mind, as I said above, she literally convinced him not to leave the state years ago. So this is a messed up way for her to get him away from me and the baby. And he's truly so dense that he doesn't see it, because she's never openly told anyone that she doesn't like me. She's never crap-talked me. It's always so sugar-coated that it's nearly impossible to pick up on it unless you're looking for it. But anyway, I said, my husband is not leaving me and the baby to go secure anything out of state. She said something like, it would be best for everyone. There's more opportunities. So I snapped and said, "Oh, so you want him to abandon us like you abandoned him? Sure, babe. Go ahead and leave for a year. Maybe I'll drop the baby off on DHHS's doorstep too and make the situation more comfortable for your mom. Time to cut the darn umbilical cord and be done with this woman, or you can be done with me." My mother-in-law turned and slammed out of the house, called my husband and said, "Make a choice right now, me or her. If that toxic witch stays, you will never see me again." Now my husband won't talk to either of us because we're acting like children, but he told me that what I said was darn wrong, and apparently me just trying to make him look like an idiot for having abandonment issues. Edit. She's only held my daughter once, for maybe 3 minutes. She took her from my husband's arms, held her briefly, and then stuck her in her swing, saying, "If you hold her all the time, then she'll get used to it and never want to be put down." I think my daughter was 4 days old. She hasn't held her since, but she's been here 8+ times, always asking my husband to go to her house and help her with something. So she's been trying to get him away from the house so he isn't spending time with us. And I'm going to be transparent here and say that I 100% meant to say what I said to her, knowing it could lead to a trauma response. Here's the thing. I've tried getting him to go to therapy. He booked an appointment, but Mommy convinced him not to go. After all, he doesn't need it, and I'm seeing a problem where there is none, and he could be doing something he enjoys instead. When my mother-in-law told him that he should skip state and leave me and the baby behind, he nodded and said, "Right," and agreed that it was a good idea. He was considering it, so I purposely pulled at those trauma strings to make him see how screwed up this was and how similar the situation was to what his mother did to him. She ditched the state, leaving her kid behind. She abandoned him. She made everyone believe that she was doing it for everyone's benefit, the same way she's trying to convince him that it would benefit us. So did I do that on purpose? Yes. Was it screwed up? Also yes, but he needed to see it for what it was, and so far he hasn't. Maybe now he will. Oh dear, not the idiot. Your mother-in-law is a narcissist. She doesn't see her own son as anything but a source of supply, and is scared that his starting a family with you will take him away from her. She's loved, bombed, and manipulated him into gifting her cars, not moving away from her, and not to mention, she's been impairing him professionally by discouraging from new career paths. This woman has been sabotaging him for 8 years, and now she wants to separate him from his new family so he doesn't see the bigger picture and what she's up to. Not to mention, she tries to cover up her abusive ways by showing up in important moments like your miscarriage, your birth, and your baby shower. Still, she can't keep up her facade and ends up telling him things like, "It's for the best that she lost the baby." Her pregnancy was of no importance to me, etc., because I'm also assuming that she avoids talking directly to you since she's too busy buttering up her son. He's a victim of narcissistic abuse, and he doesn't even realize it, but he's lucky to have your level-headed, rational self as his wife. The poor man is happy to have his mom in his life, but he doesn't realize he'd be much better off without her. I'd be willing to bet that if mother-in-law wins by breaking up OP's marriage, she'll drop her son like a hot potato. Again, did you cross the line with what you said? Maybe, but you were pushed. He still isn't making a decision and is still playing Switzerland by not speaking to either of you. That's not making a choice. And I'm sorry to say this, girl. She'll stick around until she's bled him dry. And when he's broken and useless, well, there's a granddaughter that'll probably be a pretty good age to target. I think you should take her up on the offer to move out of state. Your husband gets a job out of state. Your whole family moves on the same day, and you conveniently forget your mother-in-law's number. If your husband is so under the control of his mom, you should probably be the one with the big scissors that cut the cord.